Hi all. Firstly, welcome to. I think this is the. I don't think I'm the first person speaking, but it's definitely the first event of the future of diversity, pride in advertising, which is really good. I think we need more events like this. So well done for MediaTel for putting this on. So last time I was on stage, I gobbed off with Jerry about keyword blocking. So I thought this time what I'd do is sort of build on that, and it's telling a little bit now of, moving past that blocking of just keywords, whether they be race, religion, or sexual orientation related, or whether they be keywords of the moment like COVID, like Black Lives Matter. And how we can do that better is really working around more sentiment, more context. So what I mean by that is, and I've got a good example here. If my slides will change, they have two articles. One is, they're both got the word COVID in them. But one is about the heroes of COVID, and the other one is more negative sentiment, because the Scottish Government must get to grip on COVID tests for our NHS heroes. Now, they've both got the words heroes, they've both got the word COVID in there, or COVID or coronavirus, which, one would be blocked as a negative, but the other one would be thought of as a positive. Heroes, NHS heroes, positive, COVID negative. But I think now with the technology that's out there, and it's certainly something that Brand Advance is doing, is where we use AI like IBM Watson. We've ourselves, Brand Advance, has partnered with Reach PLC, with the Mantis platform, where you're now able to, the IBM Watson AI can read the context of every article and categorize that context. And it would be able to tell the difference between these two articles, even though keywords would say that they're quite close. And if you were trying to you may have key phrases. So you may be saying, I don't want to block COVID if it's got the words NHS heroes, or it's got the words heroes in it. Now, actually, you might still not want to be next to this negative sentiment around, and it's got NHS heroes in, but it's still negative sentiment. So IBM Watson AI is able to help get around that and reads the whole context of an article. But also what that means, so that's just cool tech, but put that to one side. What that also means is that if you have a network that has all of the Black media, all of the Indian media, all of the LGBTQ plus media on it, and you have an AI that's reading the context of all them articles, and then from that, you're categorizing them all. But also, because you're serving the ads into each of these articles, without putting a single cookie on anybody, you're actually able to know where that article was opened, was read. So therefore, if you sort of peel back these layers of information that you're able to get, you know the sentiment of articles, so you sort of know how many positive news stories around COVID and how many negative news stories around COVID have been written, or positive articles, negative articles have been written by Black media in the UK, because your AI has scanned all the Black media on the network and has looked at that. Then if you're also able to know the engagement within each city of positive or negative sentiment articles, you can start to build up a really strong picture of what do people within that community really feel around that keyword in real time. So a little example of that is where you can use contextual sentiment for behavioral change. So moving past, it's sort of a byproduct really of finding a way around keyword blocking and using more machine learning and AI for that. And then, you know, in all honesty, myself and Brand Advance have sort of now realized that we can also, because we're reading the context of all the articles, we can actually get a good picture of what people are thinking. You know, what is that demographic actually thinking at that time within different cities? So here's an example, a little bit of a well, it's not a technical slide. I don't know why I'm saying that. I think I'm trying to do that thing that the industry does. Oh, this is too technical for you all to understand, but you can pay me lots of money and I'll do it for you. It's really not that technical. It's, but it sort of, it gives you, shows how it reads and figures out the context of each article. So this is how the AI sort of, it'll say 0.128% sadness because it's picked out a lot of keywords, and it said the percentage of keywords again that trigger sadness is this: joy, fear, disgust, anger. And then it will figure out whether it is a positive green sentiment article or it's a negative red sentiment article. Now, overlay that, and I don't know if I'm in your way there, so I'm going to move myself down, with knowing where the articles are being engaged with, where they're being shared, in what city, etc. And also knowing that it's a certain demographic of media that you're looking at. So you're looking at all LGBTQ plus media in the UK. You can then start to, in real time, start to see the engagement of people looking at positive or negative sentiment around, whether it be a keyword. I keep using COVID, but it also could be around a brand, it could be around Black Lives Matter, it could be around a competitor even. And you can really start to build a real-time picture that can then feed into your creative, whether the creative is a digital campaign, and it can literally just trigger different creatives within that city, within that geo-target location, or it could trigger out of home. So for example, you could have, if you knew that negative sentiment in London was being engaged with more around COVID track and trace, you could then have content that's triggered by that in real time that goes through the screens saying, here's 5 reasons why you should really be engaging with track and trace. This is how it's going to save your life. If you know up in Manchester that people are engaging more in real time with positive sentiment articles, they're sharing more positive sentiment articles, then you could theoretically trigger up in Manchester creative that has more of a, well done, keep going, we're in this together. You know, so across the landscape of the UK, you could have different creators being triggered by what you know in real time is the sentiment data around what people in that city, in that town are engaging with. And that becomes really powerful. You know, mix that in with social scraping to the degree that is inobtrusive. So maybe that's just hashtag scraping. Put that layer of data in there as well. And then you're really starting to build this strong picture of what different demographics are thinking in different areas around the UK. And that can really trigger, you know, some behavioral change by triggering the creative, by triggering specific copy that we know will entice certain behavioral change. Link all this digitally into also being able to try and test different colors, backgrounds, fonts, font colors in real time with different demographics to see engagement. So what I mean by that is where you have, I don't know, 100 different colors, fonts, backgrounds, where you keep rotating them in front, and as in your digital campaign, and as people click on them, it will rotate through others. But then if it comes back to that one and it gets clicked on again, then the AI learning will say that you know, that demographic like that color, or they like that font, and then it will try different versions of that font to find the one that really engages with that demographic. Because, you know, gone are the days where one advertisement suits all. And also I think, you know, current climates have made us more aware of the differences, cultural differences, different nuances between each demographic, even within LGBTQ plus. You know, there, yes, all the letters are strung together in a lovely acronym, but you know, me as a gay guy and me as a black gay guy will have different cultural, you know, cultural from my blackness, but will engage with contextual media, but also may have different triggers, I think is the word. I'm struggling for the word to explain it, but different triggers or different things that would make me engage than, say, white gay. And then we collectively would engage with things different to lesbian. And then all of us collectively would engage with things different to transgender, because ours is sexuality, transgender is a gender, you know, or a realization of true gender. So, yeah, I'm waffling a little bit, but I hope that made some kind of sense. Let me show you how we've been putting it into practice. So we did an NHS campaign, and we've been running lots of the government's COVID campaigns, but this was one we did during Ramadan. And we worked with Muslim Influencer Network. We worked with a lot of our partner Muslim platforms and put out content. And the general aim of the campaign was to show how to still enjoy Ramadan, but with a keeping safe, you know, enjoying Ramadan with a bit of a digital tint on it. We changed the tagline to physical distancing, spiritually connecting, because we didn't want to use social distancing, because we wanted people to still be social. You know, social networks are by their very essence social. I personally don't understand the whole phrase social distancing, because we're just physically staying 2 meters, 1 meter apart. We're socially still speaking. I'm socially speaking to you right now on Zoom. So the sort of phrase doesn't really make sense to me, but that's just me. I don't speak on behalf of Brandon Vance or the NHS or the government. Actually, that's a lie. I speak on behalf of Brandon Vance. But yeah, so that's what this campaign was to do. And then what we also did was made sure that the content that the influencers were putting out, we would feed some of that data from sentiment to see what people were engaging with within the Muslim community, within Muslim articles in that area, and then use that to address what the influencers would put out to influence that behavioral change. So it's sort of using that real-time sentiment, putting that out then as briefs to our influencers, the influencers coming up with something to influence or encourage that behavior, and then them putting that out to their followers, which we would use influencers from different areas to push that out. And it worked really well. The campaign sentiment got a 97.73% positive sentiment, which is excellent. We directly engaged with 952,000 people during the campaign period, which is about 33.3% of the total population. And it was 70% of our target age demographic, which is, you know, really good for getting a government message, which essentially, you know, was to save lives. And it produced some really nice content on the way. I mean, obviously I'm speaking biasly. I'm not going to say we produced rubbish content, but it was actually really nice. I'm sure you can see from some of the images and then some of the videos, etc. It was a really good, it was a good campaign. And it's a good example of how this can be used. And this sort of tied in, we had that tying in to the rest of the COVID campaign. The COVID campaign, including this one now, also is we're working with the government, working with OMD, MGOMD, and them in turn working with the government. We are making sure that all of this messaging is reaching out across different demographic media, so Black, Asian, multi-ethnic, across LGBTQ plus media, so you will see this and all the future campaigns on there as well. Just making sure, you know, there's many reasons for that. One is making sure that these demographics are receiving the media. Two is making sure that government spend, ad spend is going to these demographics, and is going to these demographics continuously, you know, not just for Pride Month or for Ramadan, etc. It's a continuous investment, which it's great. We're really happy to be partnered with OMD and to be doing that and to be pushing that wider across not just the government, but across OMD as well. So massive kudos for that and for everybody that's pushed that out. I know that the case studies I've gone through haven't been very LGBTQ plus related, but I think Black Lives Matter and Pride and, you know, is starting to show that we're not siloed at the moment, or we never were, you know. LGBTQ plus, our whole Pride marches started from the streets of New York, where Martha Johnson and a lot of other Black transgender women had a riot, the Stonewall riots. I'm not going to quote the year because I always get it wrong. I think it's like 62 or 69. I'm looking across to my partner and he's not helping at all. And yeah, it was in 69. But, you know, and now Black Lives Matter and their marches in the streets, and, you know, for two totally different reasons, but with one thing in common, and that's equality for all. I hope I've given a good reason why I've blended the two together. And just as a personal note from this as well, you know, it's really good. We're really happy to be partnering with MediaTel to put on an event like this and to have people speaking from all different parts around about pride in advertising, but also the future of diversity, you know, and talking about different demographics, etc. Because now's the time for action, I think, for us all. You know, we've had the perfect storm of COVID, and then Black Lives Matter and Pride sort of not being able to be enjoyed as it has for the last 50, 60 years, with marches and parades. And I would very much still say marches in lots of places as well, because it'll be a parade when there is true LGBTQ plus equality globally, and at the moment there isn't. So it's still a march for equality, whether we might enjoy it in this country, but in other countries they don't. And even in this country, you know, we have problems of possible peeling back of the Equalities Act towards transgender people, etc. So there's still a fight to be had. But yeah, I think it's really good that we're all here to really push that agenda, and hope I haven't bored you too much. But if anybody ever wants to get a better understanding of some of the stuff I've gone through, and not, you know, this isn't a sell for Brand Advance. It's there's a lot. This isn't just for diversity media, but just to get a better understanding of how you could use sentiment to really keep your campaign's finger on the pulse, then please do reach out. I enjoy the rest of the event.